Hi, welcome to the Interaxis YouTube channel, interaxis.io. Today we're going to talk about Tezos. Tezos has gotten a lot of notoriety recently. The price of its token, XTZ, has actually gone up in value quite a bit in the last year. There's been some news about it recently with some digital assets, some security tokens being launched on the Tezos blockchain. And so we want to talk a little bit about what it is. It really fits in with the security token, the digital asset narrative. So a few things we need to talk about with Tezos is its consensus algorithm. It is a separate blockchain, so it's its consensus algorithm. It is its amendment capability, it's self-amending, and then what kind of use cases there are and what kind of assets are being built on top of it. So first we're going to talk about the consensus algorithm that Tezos is using, which they call a liquid proof of stake. So first we're going to go back and talk about consensus algorithms just slightly. As everyone probably knows that we've talked about before, there's Bitcoin, which is the proof of work. And the proof of work says that if I'm a miner, if I'm trying to be part of the system, if I'm trying to help the system create these blocks, the incentive that they want for me is we want you as a miner to help us clear, help us put transaction into a block and then clear it. And how do I do that? Well, I have to commit my processing power, my electricity, my time, right? And then I have to solve an algorithm or do something, do some sort of work so that the fact that everyone agrees, all these other nodes agree that my block that I put up there is the block, and then we go on from there. So we have the blockchain, right? And as we're going forward, if I put forth this block right here and it solves all these things, it's the correct, I got the algorithm correct. Of course, I had to do everything else. Everyone agrees, all these other nodes in the world agree, this is the block because you did this, and that's what the code says. The code says if you do this one thing, we're all going to agree. We don't really have a choice, then we just go on to the next block. That's how mining works, that's how proof of work works. Okay, so Tezos has gone kind of a different direction with it. And keep in mind, Tezos actually, the white paper for it was written in 2014, so it's been around and being built quite a while, and they have something called liquid proof of stake. So what we're looking at now is staking, and staking essentially says that instead of proof of work, instead of having to go through an algorithm and commit my processing power or my time or my electricity or anything, I actually have to stake. I have to put some of my tokens in the bucket, right? So staking, or proof of stake, basically says I put some of my tokens in, I commit them, and if there's 1,000 tokens in here that have been committed for this particular block, and I have 30 of them, then that's my chance. I have a 3% chance in this case of actually getting this, of actually being the one to mine this block. It's kind of random, but basically it's like throwing a bunch of ping pong balls in, and they're going to pick one, and that's the block that gets validated. That's the block that moves on. And if I have 30 tokens out of 1,000, I have a 3% chance of having my ping pong ball chosen. That's essentially how proof of stake in its most basic sense works. Well, what they have is liquid proof of stake, and they don't actually call it staking, they call it baking. And you'll kind of see why in just a moment. Now, in order to be a baker, I have to have what's called a roll. And a roll is 10,000 XTZ tokens, 10,000 Tezos tokens in order to be a baker. And if I have a roll, one roll, I can basically stake, or I can put my roll in to be a baker. Now, if I have 3 rolls, I can put all 3 rolls in. But a roll is 10,000. If I have 9,999 XTZ tokens, I don't have a roll. If I have 19,999 XTZ tokens, I have 1 roll, not 2, not 1.99999. It's round numbers. Okay, so what happens is everyone kind of stakes. Everyone puts their number of rolls in. So let's say for the next block there are 10 rolls total, and Interaxis, as the baker, has 3 of them. Okay, now that might mean that I have a 30% chance of being number 1 priority to actually put forth, to actually create a block, to nominate a block to be validated by everyone else. So let's say that I am number one priority. That means I have a certain amount of time, a certain amount of time to actually create the block, nominate, and everything. If I don't get it done in that time, then it goes to the next one in the priority list for them to be able to do it. So it's not only that I have to just put my ping pong balls in and hope to get chosen. It's I put my ping pong balls, I hope to get chosen, and then I have to actually do something, which is I have to put forth, I have to show everyone the block that I want to be the next one on the chain. So what happens is I'm the one chosen, I'm the priority. I put forth, here's my block that I'm putting out there, and when I do that, I stake again. I stake a bunch of my XTZ tokens. Okay, I say, here's the one, and I am so confident in this one that I'm going to put a bunch of my tokens in there, and you hold on to them for a little while, for I believe it's 14 days, to make sure that this block, everything is good with this block. Now what happens is, you have all these other bakers, they can endorse, right? So you have bakers that will look at my block, and they'll say, yep, we endorse that block. And for them to endorse, they have to stake. Now, not as much as I have to stake, but they have to stake too, because they're basically putting their stamp on it and going, yes, that's the block we want. So it's not like there's some code written necessarily that says, if Interaxis does this with this block, it is done. We've all stamped it. It is Adam's going to put, or Interaxis is going to put this particular block out there, and then other bakers are going to endorse it. And by endorsing it, they're putting some stake behind it. Now, what happens is if this is the block, because it has the most endorsements, if this is the block that is put out there and accepted to move on in the chain, then Interaxis gets rewarded, right? We get a block reward. And all these bakers get a block reward. Obviously, the Interaxis block reward for actually being the one that proposed the block is more than theirs, but everyone gets a reward because everyone really participated in the system. Now, where does this stake come in? Well, if I keep producing bad blocks, or I keep nominating bad blocks, or I'm trying to create multiple blocks at the same time and throw those up there for nomination in hopes that one of them gets the most endorsements, well, that's bad behavior, and that's not something the system wants. So if I keep doing that, one of these bakers can point it out to the system, to all the other bakers, and go, hey, governance, in Interaxis, what they're doing is not good for everyone, and we can prove it. And they prove it, everyone votes on it, and by that vote, I can get my stake taken away. Okay, so this stake is held there for a while, and if it's seen that what I'm doing is not right, it's not good for the network, I can have my stake taken away. Now, if there are continuously bakers endorsing, somehow doing the wrong thing, if they're double staking, if they're endorsing bad blocks, it's the same thing. Other bakers can go, hey, this baker right here is not, what they're doing is not good for the network, you can take their stake away. All right, so it's a system of incentives and disincentives, right? The disincentives here is I don't want to lose this stake. Okay, I've put forth this block. Of course, I want to win the block reward, but you don't want me to so badly want to win this block reward that what I do is bad for the network. So I win the block reward, but I also have to stake a lot more Tezos tokens in this block reward. And if what I'm doing is bad for the network, I get a whole lot of my tokens taken away. Okay, so that's kind of how the baking works. Now, here's a question: do I have to have 10,000 Tezos tokens? Because if Tezos is worth, a couple bucks each, then man, that can get expensive. So now they have delegated, I guess, liquid proof of stake, which says that let's say that Ron is over here, and Ron has 500 Tezos tokens, but he wants to be able to participate in this, right? He wants to be able to earn something by having these Tezos tokens. Well, he can delegate to me or to Interaxis his Tezos tokens, right? Now, if I have a bunch of people delegating to me that gets me a whole nother role, well, now instead of having 3 roles, I might have 4 roles. Okay? So now I have a better chance of winning. Well, of course, if I win a block reward, I'm going to share some with Ron. So Ron gets some incentive. So you have bakers that are telling people out there, look, if you're holding Tezos tokens, you can delegate to us. We'll give you 15 or 20% of whatever the reward is. And so as a Tezos token holder, you can earn a little bit of income just by holding your Tezos and delegating. And now by delegating it, Ron is not giving me control. I don't own those tokens. He keeps custody of them. He has just within his wallet delegated the staking or the baking ability to me. And now if I get enough of them, I can have 4 rolls or 5 rolls or 6 rolls and have a better chance of winning those block rewards. So that's the liquid proof of stake. Now, hopefully that makes complete sense. One of the other brilliant parts of Tezos is the self-amending ability. So the idea behind the Tezos blockchain is it's self-amended. They know that there will always be changes to the financial ecosystem, to the financial world, and so they know that these bakers, these people who have skin in the game, right, who have an interest in the system, might want to make some changes. So they have a proposal, they have a system. So you don't have to have a hard fork. Remember, if you know, with the Bitcoin network, for instance, if the Bitcoin, if the foundation, if those that are kind of curating and looking after the Bitcoin code decide that they want to make a change and they kind of argue amongst each other, and finally some decide, yeah, we need to increase the block size or we need to increase transaction speed or whatever it might be, then what has to happen is these people have to do a hard fork, right? Where Bitcoin keeps going up here, you fork the code, and this, say, is Bitcoin Cash, right? And it has the new blockchain down here. It all kind of has the same origin, but then it is split off and you have this hard fork. You probably have some contentious relationship, right? Well, everyone going into Tezos says, no, we want this chain to continue the same chain, but be able to change itself to go along with whatever's happening in the world, whatever's happening in the economy, right? So you have this idea where a baker can submit a proposal. So they submit, say, proposal 1 here. They can submit up to 20 proposals in a particular block. Now what happens is everyone else can look at it and they can decide to endorse, right? And say, look, that's a pretty good proposal. We see why you want to do that. We see why you want to make those changes to the smart contract language or whatever else it might be. So then there's a test period. And the test period says, we're going to take the regular Tezos chain, and we're going to take our change from proposal 1, and we're going to do a soft fork for 48 hours. And we're going to watch and see what happens and see if it's good for the network. Everyone's going to watch it. Now there's a vote, right? And so if we as all the bakers vote and go, look, we really like this, and it has to be an 80% vote, then what happens is we move forward with this chain, and everything here just reverts back to this point, and we keep going with this chain. And in doing that, we have a soft fork. We have the ability to keep moving Tezos forward with any changes that need to be made without having to eventually have, you know, Tezos Cash and Tezos Gold and all these other hard forks that essentially create their own chains. There's just one long chain. So the self-amending ability is really key and it's really a nice feature. Now, so what kind of use cases are there? Well, the fact that the self-amending ability along with the liquid proof of stake has drawn the issuers of security tokens, right? So security tokens, kind of came to prominence on the Ethereum blockchain in the DeFi world, right? Where we had these ERC 721 tokens for the most part that represented like real estate or something like that can now be exchanged using like 0x protocol or some of those other protocols on an exchange eventually after the token is issued. So this was a standard on the Ethereum blockchain. So Tezos has their own ability to issue security tokens, or someone can issue security tokens representing something like real estate, or let's call it a hedge fund, private equity, something like that. Lending, bonds, whatever it might be, you can issue security tokens on the Tezos blockchain using the smart contract language that they have, but not having to go through everything else that is part of Ethereum, right? Because Ethereum has not only digital assets, not only financial assets, but it has art, and it has land and all these other digital land and all these other things that are inherent in Ethereum, some things like CryptoKitties and games that have brought it down. Tezos, for the most part, is concentrated on, or the use case has been concentrated on the financial aspect. So you can have all these security tokens, and now what they've also done is they have partnered with T0. So T0 has become the exchange protocol, so that a security token, like a real estate token issued on the Tezos blockchain, can now go into the T0 exchange, and now you can have some liquidity. So if I buy this real estate token, it might eventually be traded on the T0 exchange, or a T0 exchange, and now if I bought this token, whereas in the past if I bought real estate or bought a real estate trust or something, I have to hold it, I have no liquidity. Now I can put it in the exchange and maybe I have some liquidity, meaning maybe I can sell it at some point. The fact that it's on a public blockchain means anyone who wants to buy it gets full transparency into what it owns, into the income it's paid, and everything else. So digital asset security tokens have been a big use case for the Tezos blockchain. A company called Vertalo is a transfer agent, among other transfer agents that are using that are issuing using Tezos and partnering with T0 to be the exchange. So Vertalo is a transfer agent. They can issue a token. They have someone who has real estate and wants to issue a token to raise money from investors. Those investors get a token that's issued on the Tezos blockchain. So it uses their smart contract language in their chain, and that investor can eventually maybe sell some of it or trade some of it on the T0 exchange. So that's what we're seeing from Tezos. It's been really in the news quite a bit lately. It's become very popular, and you can see why. It has the liquid proof of stake consensus algorithm, and especially the self-amendment ability, the fact that you can stay on the same chain and keep making changes that everyone agrees are better for the chain and better for this financial ecosystem. So it's essentially building a little financial ecosystem for essentially digital assets, for security tokens and such. And what we see on top of that is we will eventually have DeFi type capabilities, things like lending, right? So if I own a real estate token, I can now use it as collateral. And we see in the future where someone will have a lending capability using a Tezos-backed security token or a Tezos-based security token as the collateral. And someone will issue collateral loans, and then they'll probably securitize the loan. So you'll go a few steps farther, but it will all be done on the Tezos blockchain. So we want to talk a little bit about Tezos. Again, we're not endorsing it as the value of the token or anything. We just want to talk about the chain, the use cases, who's using it, and hope you understand. Now, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out our website. We're soon coming out with a membership and courses for financial professionals, financial advisors, bankers, real estate professionals can come get in-depth knowledge on digital assets, on custody, on risk, on all these things that you as a financial professional might need to help you in your industry, help you with your clients. So check that out. That's coming soon. Go to our website, hit us on Twitter @Interaxis8, the number 8. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we hope to see you in the next one.